In Lesson 1, we'll just get started with LibreOffice. We'll just cover enough information so that you'll be able to open the LibreOffice Writer program, enter a bit of text, print it, and then save the document for use in a future lesson. As you learn a new computer program like LibreOffice Writer, it's important that you build your vocabulary. You need to memorize the important vocabulary words as you go. The problem with learning a lot of new computer programs is that the computer programs have a habit of taking old words that you've known all your life and giving them brand new meanings. And this could make it more difficult to learn how to use a program. You'll just have to bite the bullet and learn some new vocabulary. These lessons were created using Windows 10, and the Windows desktop is the name of the display on the screen when Windows was first started. I guess the folks who invented this thought that the display somehow mimicked a person's office desk where you might have documents or tools laying around. There are several possible ways to start LibreOffice. In Windows 10, you can click on the Start button, and you may have a LibreOffice button in that Start menu. Or, when LibreOffice was installed, you may have put a shortcut on the desktop that will go to LibreOffice, or it's possible to create a shortcut on the taskbar to open up LibreOffice. When you first open LibreOffice Writer, you might be overwhelmed by all of the things you see on the display. It seems to be a confusing mess. We're going to go through these lessons in a very deliberate, slow, step-by-step approach to learning the software. And you will find out that you can create very useful documents using LibreOffice Writer even if you only know 5 or 10% of all the features that are available. I suspect that if you're looking at this lesson, you're either new to word processing in general or you're new to the LibreOffice Writer program in specific. In either case, I'm going to assume that you're starting from the beginning, and I will try not to leave out any of the details as we go along. As a teacher, I know that I have to overcome the tendency to jump ahead with things I already know and assume that the student already knows those things. So excuse me if I seem to go too slow or cover some of the things you already are familiar with. Let's do a quick review of the mouse pointer. In my system, I've set the mouse pointer to be this little arrow on the screen, and as I move the pointer around the screen, it will highlight different options on the display. Also, if I move the pointer into a text area, the pointer will change from an arrow to this I bar, and that reminds me that I'm now in a text area of a display. If I move this pointer very carefully to certain parts of the display, for example, if I get it right on this vertical line, you'll notice the pointer changes to a left and right double arrow. That means I can select or click on that with my left mouse button, and then I can drag that line back and forth on the display. So it's important to keep an eye on the shape of the pointer as you move the mouse around on the display. Let's take a quick tour of the LibreOffice Writer display. Like most Windows programs, the very top line is called the title bar. And the title bar always tells you the name of the program in that window, and it also tells you the name of the open document. In this case, the document is called Untitled because we haven't given it any name yet. The next horizontal line below the title bar is called the menu bar. By the way, here's another vocabulary word for you, and the word is select. When I say the word select, what I mean is move the mouse pointer to a particular place on the display and click the left mouse button once. So if I select the word file in the menu bar, you'll see a menu drops down with a lot of options related to the term file. If I move the cursor over to the word edit, I get another pop down, and so on. As I move the cursor across the different options in the menu bar, you'll see different lists of options or functions or tools that pop down. Right below the menu bar is a toolbar. Now, LibreOffice gives us the option to change the look and feel of this toolbar. If you want your display to mimic the displays in my tutorials, then you need to be using the same toolbar that I'm using. And I'm using a toolbar called Galaxy. Here's how I can make sure that I'm using the Galaxy toolbar. In the menu bar, I will select Tools, then I will slide all the way down to Options and select Options. And in the Options dialog box that opens up, I'm going to select View. And in the View options, I'm going to go and select the Style. And you see that I have all kinds of styles. For example, suppose I choose Breeze and say OK. And you see the toolbar icons change completely. So let me go back to selecting Tools, Options, View, and Icon Style. I'm going to select Galaxy. If you've done that, then your display will match my display as you go through the lesson. From my experience in the education business, I know that people will remember a certain percentage of the things they hear, a larger percentage of the things they hear and see, but the largest percentage of things that they hear and see and do. So as you go through these lessons, you should pause the video from time to time, open up the program in your computer, and practice a little bit what you've just heard and seen. That will maximize your learning experience. Let me demonstrate entering a bit of text in this document. First, I will move the mouse pointer into the text area, and then I'll select any point. I'll click the left mouse button once, and I'll start typing some text. And this brings me to a point where I have to call your attention to something called formatting marks or non-printing text characters. In the toolbar, there is an option. If I hover on it, it shows toggle formatting marks. And I always work with this option turned on. Over here, where I typed a little bit of text, when I hit the Enter key, you see this strange symbol. And down below that, you see another strange symbol. That symbol is a non-printing character. When you print this document, you will not see that. But that symbol shows that I pressed the Enter key and ended a paragraph at that point. And here it shows that I have another paragraph. And by the way, back in my high school English class, they told me that paragraphs had to have at least 3 sentences. This is one of those places where the computer programmers have messed with our vocabulary. In the context of LibreOffice Writer, a paragraph can have multiple sentences, it can have 1 sentence, it can have 1 word, or it might have no words at all. For example, each time I press the Enter key, I add another paragraph. And I can tell that the paragraphs are there because this toggle formatting marks option is turned on. If I turn that off, there's no way to tell what's actually on this display. Some of my friends are frequently surprised when they finish a document and they send it to the printer, and the silly printer ends up printing a blank page, and they don't understand why the printer printed nothing. Actually, it wasn't printing nothing. If we toggle the formatting marks on, you'll see all the characters, all the non-printing characters, and the chances are my friends had, at the end of their document, entered many paragraphs that have no text. And the printer was faithfully printing those characters even though they're not visible on the page. Now, as you view these lessons in video form, you should be following along with the printed version of the same lesson, and that's available as a PDF file. If you're following along, in Lesson 1, we've come to the point where we're entering text. And we've talked about moving the mouse pointer, and there's information about the non-printing characters. And there's information along with the steps to follow, and there are little notes from time to time. For example, there's a note to experienced typists. Experienced typists have a disadvantage when they're learning how to do word processing because they've developed a bunch of habits that they use for formatting text as they go, and many of those habits they have to forget and approach word processing in a way different from using a typewriter. One of the habits is they'll use the carriage return to add space between lines. You no longer do that when you're doing word processing. The only time you'll press the enter key, or what used to be called the carriage return key, is when you want to end a paragraph. Now, in the next part of this lesson, there's some text that you should be entering into your own LibreOffice document. The format in the printed version of the lessons is what's highlighted in green are steps that you're going to do, and text with a blue background is the actual text you're going to enter into your document. Now, I've jumped ahead so that you aren't bored by my slow typing, and I've gone ahead and entered the text as suggested in Lesson 1. When you look at this, you're probably going to think that that's not very attractive, and if you're a typist, you would have been tempted to enter extra lines between these paragraphs. Don't do it, and don't worry about the appearance. In the next lesson, you're going to learn an awful lot about changing the appearance of the document. The trick in word processing is to focus your energy on entering the text. Don't worry about how it looks until after you get your thoughts down into the document. Then you can adjust the format to make a professional looking document. Now that we have a document with a bit of text in it, let's take a look at how we print this document. There are tools on the toolbar for printing, and next to that tool is something called Toggle the Print Preview. Let's do that. And when you select the Print Preview, you'll get an image of the entire page, and it shows how it's going to look when it's printed. By using the Print Preview, you may save yourself some printer ink or laser toner by not having to print a sample to see what it looks like. The Print Preview option is a toggle. That means the first time I select it, I get the preview. If I select that tool again, it goes back to normal. There's a couple of ways to print a document. There is a tool on the toolbar, and as I hover on that tool, the little tooltip says, if you look close, says Control+P. That's a shortcut to printing. If I hold the Control key down and press the letter P, I'll get the same effect as if I select the print tool. Also, if I select the File option on the pop-down menu, I will find again the print tool and a reminder that the shortcut is Control+P. Some of my friends get annoyed at me if I tell them more than one way to do a particular function. But I think the more you know about this, the better. Some people like to use shortcuts and they'll memorize shortcuts and be productive with them. Other people just prefer to have the tools right here in their face. Other people don't mind scrolling down to find the different options. You can choose whatever method you want. In any case, we're going to print the document. So I'll select that tool, and that opens up a printer dialog box. And I don't know what it's going to show on your computer because I don't know what printers might be installed in your computer. In my computer, I have as the default printer something called the LaserJet 200 color printer. And since that's the default printer, if I go ahead and click OK, one copy of this document will be printed. The printer dialog box gives you a little bit more information than you need right now, but it shows you that there's one page out of one page in this document, and you have a choice to print all the pages or to just print a selection of pages. Doesn't apply when you only have one page. You also have an option to print multiple copies of the document. So you can accept the default settings for your printer and select OK and cause the document to be printed. There's one more very important function to discuss in Lesson 1, and that is saving your document so that you can find it again. In the toolbar, you'll notice that there's a tool. If you hover on it, it says Save. And notice right now that that tool using the Galaxy toolbar has this little sunburst on it. The sunburst shows me that this document has not been saved since changes were made. I'm going to select the Save tool, and that will open the Save As dialog box. Now, it's important that you control where your documents are saved. And you do that by using the equivalent of File Explorer in Windows 10. There's a place here where you can select the path of where your document will be stored. You can also select or create a special folder for your documents. Now, in this example, I've created a special folder named My Practice Documents, and I've opened that folder or selected it so that you can see that's where this document will be stored. Right now, it says no items match your search. That means that this folder is empty. In the file name area of the Save As dialog box, I will enter the file name. The type of document, or the three-letter extension of the document, will be saved automatically with this file name. It's possible to change that to a different kind of file, but we're going to accept the default .odt extension for this file name. Once we've selected our path and folder and entered our file name, then we can select Save. Once you've completed Lesson 1 and you've saved your document, I recommend that you go back and start fresh. Open a brand new empty document and go through Lesson 1 again step by step. You will be amazed that sometimes if you go through these lessons a second or third time, you'll be amazed to discover things that you never saw the first time through. And here are some points to remember from Lesson 1. Paragraphs can have several sentences, they can have one word or no words at all. And to end a paragraph, you press the Enter key. To print a document using the default printer, just select the Print tool from the toolbar. To save a document, select the Save tool from the toolbar, then adjust the Save In folder as required, and enter a new file name. A lot of people, when they're working on whether it's LibreOffice Writer documents or whether it's any kind of documents, they'll just click Save without worrying about where the document's going to be stored. That makes it hard to find the document later. So when you're saving a document, always take control and make sure that you have the path and the folder set so that you'll be able to find the document at a later time. And don't forget the new vocabulary words used in this lesson. The desktop refers to the main display on the screen when the Windows operating system opens. The taskbar is a collection of one-click program shortcuts. Most Windows display the taskbar as a horizontal area at the bottom of the display, but some users can change that location. So don't be surprised if you use a computer and you'll see the taskbar on the left side, the right side, or the top rather than the bottom. Taskbars are movable in Windows. Select. The word select means to move the mouse pointer over an object and click the left mouse button once. Double click means move the mouse pointer over an object and click the left mouse button twice. A document in word processing is simply a computer file that contains text and style information. You might be interested to know, and you will find out as these lessons progress, that each document contains more than a bunch of words. You could create a document with empty paragraphs and the document would still have a size to it because there's a lot of information stored in addition to the words found in a document.